NASCAR is back, and I'm Jordan Bianchi with 30 Mo Media and The Athletic, and we have updates from the lawsuit last week filed by Joe Gibbs Racing against former competition director Chris Gabehart. On Tuesday, Joe Gibbs Racing filed an amendment to its lawsuit, and it is now seeking a temporary restraining order, a preliminary injunction, and a permanent injunctive relief against Chris Gabehart. This resolves kind of one of the unknown things that we didn't really understand last week when the lawsuit was initially filed. At the time, the question was, why is Joe Gibbs Racing okay with Chris Gabehart going to a different team? It's suing Chris Gabehart. It's alleging that he committed all of these theft of intellectual property, and yet the team was okay with him going to a rival organization. Well, guess what? It's not. As it said in its lawsuit, as its amended filing on Tuesday, it is asking the court to order Gabehart to cease and desist working or performing any services for Spire Motorsports similar to those he provided for Joe Gibbs Racing for the 18 months following February 9, 2026, in addition to cease and desist using, sharing, copywriting, or transferring any proprietary information rightfully belonging to Joe Gibbs Racing. In short, what Joe Gibbs Racing is asking the court to do is put Chris Gabehart on gardening leave, which is a form of just putting someone on the sideline and prohibiting them from doing anything with a competing organization or company for a set period of time. We see this a lot in Formula One and other forms of racing. And for those who just need a quick refresher, Joe Gibbs Racing is alleging that Gabehart, a former competition director and a longtime employee of Joe Gibbs Racing dating back to 2012, embarked on a brazen scheme to steal JGR's most sensitive information and use it for the benefit of a direct competitor in NASCAR, Spire Motorsports. Speaking of Spire Motorsports, the amendment filed on Tuesday comes just days after Spire made it public that Chris Gabehart had joined the team as its chief motorsports officer. What this position entails is a point of contention from JGR, as they claim Gabehart's role as Spire's chief motorsports officer is similar in nature to his role as competition director for them. Gabehart's contract, as I read it, basically says if you're going to a different organization for a promotion or a different job duties, that's acceptable. But going to a different organization for the same level job as a competition director is not acceptable. They are saying even though these are different titles, they are effectively the same duties, and Gabehart will be doing the same thing at Spire as he did at Joe Gibbs Racing. JGR does not like this, and this is part of why they are seeking an injunction to prohibit Chris Gabehart from working at Spire for 18 months. Also of note, JGR first learned of Gabehart's new role at Spire on February 11th, 2026, then followed by suing Gabehart the next week. Spire is named as a defendant in the lawsuit because Joe Gibbs Racing alleges Spire is benefiting from Chris Gabehart's misappropriation of trade secrets and the competitive information he has used and improperly retained that has given Spire a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Breaking this down, basically what Joe Gibbs Racing is saying is that Spire is benefiting and using things that were obtained from Joe Gibbs Racing illegally to its benefit to improve its team. They can't do that, and therefore that is why they are now a defendant in the lawsuit. A lot of the information laid out in both the filing last week and the amended version on Tuesday centers around forensic analysis done on Chris Gabehart's computer by Joe Gibbs Racing after Chris Gabehart told the team he was leaving them in mid-November of 2025. This forensic analysis revealed that Gabehart had created a folder labeled Spire and a subfolder labeled Past Setups. And within those folders contained a multitude of documents, photographs, and spreadsheets, all of which JGR says are proprietary information owned by the team and also includes sensitive financial data. In the amendment on Tuesday, JGR went through and listed about a dozen different things that Chris Gabehart had done and things that he had illegally taken from Joe Gibbs Racing that they say is trade secrets and that he cannot take and should not have access to, nor should he have taken anything on a third-party server, which is what they say he did. Also noted, Chris Gabehart has not worked for Joe Gibbs Racing since November 10th, 2025. JGR stated this in its claim. It also included in its filing on Tuesday a termination of employment letter sent to Chris Gabehart on February 9, 2026, and signed by Joe Gibbs, stating Gabehart had violated his contractual obligations, company policy, state and federal law, in addition to being an act involving moral turpitude, fraud, willful misconduct, gross negligence, and/or dishonesty. As part of the lawsuit, JGR is alleging that Chris Gabehart inflicted more than $8 million in damages on the team. Chris Gabehart released a statement last Friday that in part reads, "I look forward to the opportunity to demonstrate to the court that I have not shared Joe Gibbs Racing confidential information with anyone. In fact, I have already demonstrated that to JGR. A third-party forensic expert retained by JGR recently examined my laptop, cell phone, and personal Google Drive and found no evidence to support the baseless allegation in JGR's lawsuit. We even offered JGR the opportunity to do a similar review of Spire systems. JGR refused that offer and filed this spiteful lawsuit instead." JGR, in its filing on Tuesday, rebutted this claim and says that what Gabehart said in his statement is inaccurate, and they lay out their claims of how this is inaccurate. Also important to note that this filing, Gabehart has to respond to it in the court by March 10th. We have not heard officially from Spire Motorsports yet. They declined comment when contacted, but they say they may issue a statement on Wednesday. Stay tuned to Dirty Mo Media and The Athletic for future updates on this story.